Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale here in Abuja. It's some very interesting day for Nigeria, if you know what that means. For those who have followed the trajectory on the tax reform bills. But tonight we'll break it all down for you. What is the implication and the possible impact of those laws on the Nigerian people, the poor, the companies, the private sector, and even the pockets of the federal government? We'll be analyzing all that for you. But first, let's have you with some of your political roundup stories.
The Senate has confirmed several nominees appointed by President Bola Tinubu to serve on the boards of regional development commissions across the country. Among the confirmed nominees is Honorable Chidubo Muche, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, who will serve as chairman of the newly established South-South Development Commission. Usoro Ofyong Akpabio from Akwa Ibom State also confirmed as the managing director of the SSDC. The Senate Committee on Public Accounts has issued a 10-day ultimatum to NNPC Limited to respond to 11 critical financial queries related to discrepancies in its audited financial statements, warning that failure to comply could attract serious consequences. The committee, chaired by Senator Aliyu Wadada, had days ago expressed outrage over what it described as mind-boggling and unacceptable financial irregularities uncovered in NNPC's books, including over 200 trillion naira in unexplained receivables and undocumented legal and audit fees spanning the years 2017 to 2023. President Bola Tinubu has declined assent to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency Amendment Bill 2025. The president's decision was contained in a letter read by the Speaker during plenary. The proposed law seeks to empower the NDLEA to retain a portion of proceeds from drug-related crimes, which the president says contradicts existing financial regulations. The Independent National Electoral Commission has warned state governments, especially where elections are scheduled to hold, of denying their opposition party access to public facilities such as campaign venues, bills, and state media. Chairman of the Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, stated this at the second regular consultative meeting with political parties in Abuja. The Commission had also approved the resumption of online continuous voter registration and in-person registration of voters in all the states of the Federation. The online pre-registration is expected to start on 18th of August 2025, while the in-person registration will now follow on 25th of August 2025.
I urge you to adhere strictly to the procedure and timelines for the conduct of nominations, particularly the legal requirements for the Commission to publish the personal particulars of candidates in the various constituencies for claims and objections by citizens, which comes within a week from the deadline for the submission of nominations.
To Delta State, where the Olobusere of Warri Kingdom, Chief Ariyemi Emami, has issued a stern warning following announcements by the Ikantu and Ijalaga communities, who have publicly distanced themselves from their Ishekiri roots and declared allegiance to the Ijo and Gbaramatu kingdoms. Chief Emami asserted that the Ishekiri people will not relinquish any portion of their ancestral land to any other ethnic group or authority. He pointed fingers at the Ijo for allegedly masterminding the allegiance shift, which he says threatens the unity of the territorial sovereignty.
This job can never be caused to us. This job is supposed to be what? Blessing to all of us.
It was a long journey, isn't it? But well, today it terminates. President Bola Tinubu has assented to the 4 tax reform bills recently passed by the National Assembly. This short ceremony took place at the presidential villa, where it was attended by leadership of the National Assembly, some legislators, governors and ministers, and aides to the president. The 4 bills, the Nigeria Tax Bill, the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill were passed by the National Assembly after extensive consultation with various interest groups and stakeholders. Perhaps one of the most controversial bills or laws in our land since the advent of the Fourth Republic. Let me allow you to listen to what President Bola Tinubu says.
Nowhere in the world that tax reform will it be any easy? Some tax bills that you might read in your textbooks might even sound sometimes like reading in English in Japanese. Very difficult, twisted equations, reverse ideologies. At the end of the day, what you must land with is the hope to develop the people and show the right character towards the destination. We are in transit. We have changed the road. We have changed some of the misgivings. We have opened the door for new economy, business opportunity. We are showing that Nigeria is truly, truly ready and open for business. Easy in, easy out.
So, what does this mean for Nigeria? Well, when the president came up and set up a committee led by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the gentle, easy-spoken man whom we always talk with when we talk about economic and tax issues, became the man on the spotlight. For the several months, himself and his team were working on this bill. It went into a lot of controversy and debate across the country. But today, that controversy seems to have terminated, and it's now law, as passed by the president, an act of parliament. Taiwo Oyedele is here with me tonight. Thank you so much. I must say congratulations to you.
Thank you, Shema.
Your smiles are different now.
Yeah,
compared to
I'm more relaxed now.
months ago. How do you feel?
I feel really very excited. I feel like nothing is impossible if we put our minds and hearts to it. And that despite the controversies, we can still work together as one people with one goal. And this shows possibilities can happen anywhere, including Nigeria. So I'm quite happy. And thank you for the session you moderated, the live session. Was one of the big turning points for us. At the height of the misunderstanding, controversy, people started cooking up conspiracy theories, misinformation. It was tough. I think it's right to say that was very difficult. And it could have gone either way. But we're here today, so we're happy.
We're proud of the role we played, because that's the role of the media, to help Nigeria in the most difficult period, because that divided. I've not seen in my years of practice, I've not seen a bill that has divided Nigerians more than that, ethnic-wise, religion-wise. It told so many stories. And those who did not know, because it's also something that it is a language that is understood by only the elites. So the average person sees it differently from the elites. And there are a lot of people who were hiding under the disguise of the technical language to whip up sentiment. But thank God that we're here today. But what is more important, on the 8th of August 2023, you were inaugurated, and your life changed. How significant was that for you?
Very significantly. Everything, actually, both in terms of my career trajectory, which is a decision I took intentionally, so I'm not complaining. In terms of the financial sacrifices, maybe that is even now smaller looking back. The biggest...
So you were getting lower...
No, so it's just because the amount government was going to pay was going to be ridiculous. So I said, you know what, just cover the cost of what you asked me to do. You don't need to pay me a salary. And I'm also fine with that. It's a small sacrifice in the context of the impact that this can make. But the biggest sacrifice turns out to be the emotional impact, particularly on my family. At the height of it, there were people who would cook up stories on blogs, on newspapers. There were headlines that were really very difficult to understand, and it took a toll on my family. My wife, for example, was doing night vigil every night, and then struggled to stay awake the following day. Thank God my kids are still too young, so they don't know exactly what we've been going through. But it's been tough. It's a big sacrifice. I think it's important to make the point that if Nigerians really truly want a better country, they should not discourage honest people who want to help. It's already a tough decision to try and work in the public sector. Making it harder than it needs to be is not very helpful.
So there are crucial things that matter. And one of those things that we're trying to tell Nigerians is that the new regime of these new laws, well, these 4 bills will now form the body of our new tax laws in Nigeria that will help us to channel our resources and be able to harness our resources and make sure that revenue is targeted and well captured. What you portray to us, or what you told Nigerians, is that this will bring about transparency in the very terribly opaque system that we operate. Can you tell us in what way would this law do that?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so you're right. The current system is opaque. And usually, if you're hiding stuff from me, I need to be suspicious of you. It's hard to trust you if you're not open and transparent. That's exactly what we have today in Nigeria. So these new laws require that government should be more transparent. There are requirements around the standard of reporting, the timeliness of those reporting, and making them accessible to the public by the agencies like the Nigerian Revenue Service. There's a role for Ministry of Finance. Of course, there's the oversight function for the National Assembly that is more properly defined. So there will be improved transparency, certainly, under this new regime. But then to the more fundamental point around what does this really mean, right? So one of the things we have been saying, because of the low level of trust, many people don't seem to believe us, is that the primary objective of this reform is not to raise more tax revenues. Because if you set out to do a reform in an economy like this with the objective of raising more revenue, you're placing the cart before the horse. Because tax revenues are the consequences of economic activities. If you don't address how to stimulate economic activities, but you want to collect more taxes, you are chasing shadows. And when you do collect taxes, taxes are a means to an end, not an end in themselves. In other words, the reason why we collect taxes is to cater for the people in terms of their well-being, their welfare, and livelihood. So therefore, your tax system, your fiscal policies, must not in any way distort economic activities, and they must not undermine the well-being of the people. With that in mind, we set out to say primary objectives will be, number one, people-centric. Can we stop taxing poverty? Can we protect small businesses? Can we allow large businesses to become larger? We want Nigerian businesses to be multinationals so that when the price of oil crashes to $40, $50, we don't panic. Imagine if you have 20, 40, 50 Nigerian multinationals earning billions of dollars from around the world and repatriating it back to Nigeria, then we'll become a more stable and prosperous economy. So we want to be people-centric in the reforms. Number two, we want to be efficiency-driven. So are there areas where we are inefficient, maybe how we collect taxes, how government spends the money, and so on and so forth. And then number three is to be growth-focused. How can we grow? Imagine Nigeria being a $2 trillion economy. Even if you collect 10% of GDP as taxes, it's multiple times what we collect now. But beyond that, there are also critical areas where money will come from. Number one is tax evasion. There are people today who are doing what you're doing. They're not, maybe they're even earning more than you, and they're not paying the taxes you're paying. That is not fair, and we shouldn't allow that to continue. That will stop.
So this system will not allow that?
It will not allow that.
As long as you are captured, you
must
have
pay
NIN,
taxes.
You have banking.
You have NIN, you have bank information, you have phone number. Even this phone number you are looking at.
You can't hide anywhere.
Excellent data. This gives me. You travel abroad, we have the data. You buy land, we have the data. You buy a car or even bicycle or motorcycle, you build a house, you're going to connect to electricity. We have the data. You open an investment account, pension account, stockbroking account. We want you to do your activities, but government will track those activities so that when you refuse to report your income correctly, we will find out. We want to get to a point where we will not come to you and say, Sheon, how much did you earn in 2025? No, we'll tell you how much you've earned. It is for you to either disprove or approve. So that system is important. Every country where you see development, this is how they build their society.
So are we able to digitize the process?
Yes, so that's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing.
So
we're going to digitize everything.
So there's a new name now,
including
from FRS to
NRS, Nigerian Revenue Service. And that Nigerian Revenue Service will then work in collaboration with sub-nationals. So if you live and work in Ekiti State, for example, you can't go and tell them that actually, by the way, I'm resident in the FCT when you are not resident here. That lie happens every single day in Nigeria today. We'll find out that system will tell us where you're resident. You know that if you move around, your phone can actually tell me where you were yesterday, right? So that data will help us to ensure that, one, we know who is truly poor and protect them and exempt them completely from paying taxes.
So this is a poor man protection policy.
It's a pro-poor,
okay,
pro-business, and pro-growth and equity and fairness.
So where will the extra income come from?
Yes. So one is tax evasion. So we estimate that the tax gap, which is how much we are collecting versus how much we could be collecting, is in the region of 70%. So we're only collecting 30% of what is we can collect. So we want to close that gap. Imagine you just close it by another 30%. That's double what you collect now. Number two is we have a lot of wasteful incentives that are not just wasteful, they're also distortionary. So we lose money and they create problem for the economy. So we fix that as well. So that's money coming to the government without raising the taxes on the people. And then, of course, there is the one to do with just ensuring that government resources are more efficiently utilized. So these areas combined will be the initial areas where we make money from. But ultimately, the money will come from the economy growing. If you get 10% of $200 billion, it's more than 100% of $1 billion. So that is the whole idea. That is where the money will come. It's not about going to the person who is struggling to survive and asking them to pay more. They have nothing else to give. Yeah.
I mean, interesting that the president asked for a fiscal policy and tax reforms committee. That was your committee. So it's not only tax reform. I want to know whether you did any work on fiscal policy. Did you do any work on fiscal policy?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I've been completely.
Because that is the first leg of the assignment. Of the assignment by the president.
Yeah. So people just think it's okay. I think the tax bills gave us the visibility because we were not paying attention to us before. But actually, the tax reform bills, in my estimation, is less than 20% of the work we're doing.
Really?
Yes. So the bulk of the work is around the fiscal side. We've done a lot of work around, we've developed what we call a Nigeria fiscal policy framework that sets out how we do things. For example, who should do tax, what revenue should you collect, how do you deal with subsidies and conditional transfers? How do you deal with inclusiveness for youth, for women, for people with disability? How do you deal with issues around the climate change? So those policies, we've documented them. There's also a lot of work we've done around how do we transform our budgetary system. In fact, there are proposals we've sent to the National Assembly to amend the Constitution to tell you the extent of the work we've done. So you're right. The assignment given to us is quite broad, and it was very intentional. Mr. President was very intentional in the terms of reference to say, look at fiscal policy and tax for me. In addition to that, one thing that the president did that we should commend, and I recommend that this should be replicated, is the first time, at least I can remember in Nigeria, that a committee was set up with a mandate not only to come with ideas and recommendations, but also a requirement for them to support in the implementation. Just imagine Orosanya report. If we had done it like this, maybe we would have implemented it at least to some extent. So when the controversy was really, really very heated, I said to myself, what if all we did was to write recommendations and say, there, federal government and government of Nigeria, we write the laws, put this provision here, and we've taken photos and we moved on. It would have been impossible to deal with those problems. So I think it's commendable that we are not only coming up with the ideas, we're also working with the government to do the implementation. It's been very effective.
So I mean, they did a bit of a research, and I look at what South Africa, for example, is generating in personal income tax.
Yes.
And compare with the South Africa is less than 80 million people.
Yeah, about 60
We're about 200 million people. South Africa gets almost 4 times what Nigeria gets in personal income tax. So it doesn't make sense, actually. We do know that if South Africa, that is about a third of our population, gets 4 or 3 times more in personal income tax than Nigeria, and they're less than us, it doesn't make sense. It shows that something is wrong with our net and how we need to capture it. And I think that President Bola Tinubu is probably blessed with a few people around him, someone like you, and someone like Zach Adedeji, A lot of people don't know that that guy is a first-class accountant.
Very smart
Very smart guy. And you look at FRS, for example, from 12 trillion to 19 trillion, from 19 trillion to 21 trillion. There's a target of 25 trillion in the next end of the next calendar year. That is the target. What do you think we could possibly get? What figure do you think matches our possibility if it's properly captured, the way this law is being framed now?
Yeah, great question. So, and I like the example of South Africa you just made. In fact, you underestimated their performance. As of 2023, South Africa made about 50 trillion naira equivalent from personal income tax alone. That's more than all our revenues from all taxes, from selling crude oil, federal, state, local government, all combined. What South Africa made in personal income tax alone was more than that. By the way, that same year that they made 50 trillion, we made 1.5. So they made 30 times what we made in personal income tax. You know where the good news is actually?
Yeah.
South Africa is not only just about 1/3 of our population. They have an exemption threshold in South Africa today that if you earn about 600,000 naira a month, you are completely exempted from paying personal income tax. That amount goes even further up if you are a senior, like you retired. And here we are in Nigeria taxing all the poorest people and we can't raise the money. And the answer to that question is very simple. It's because people cannot give what they don't have. In South Africa, the top 1% of their population alone pays 90% of the personal income tax. So this is what we're now trying to do in Nigeria. If you want to promote equity, fairness, and have justice in a society, you must have progressive tax system that protects the poor, collect fairly an amount from the middle class, and allow the top of society to pay a little bit more. So moving forward with these reforms, we're going to start by collecting credible data. I don't know of any country where people start paying taxes because they're excited to pay. So
it's always a reluctant civic responsibility.
And the reason is because, you know, if you're hungry and you pay for a meal of food, a plate of meal, you get the benefit immediately. We know that taxes benefit society, but you don't see the direct benefit, so you rather not pay. So South Africa collects about 26% of their GDP in taxes. Nigeria collects, even just recently, we moved to about 13.5% of GDP. If everything works out well, back to your question, Nigeria should be at a minimum of 18 to 20% of GDP. And that should translate to around 50 trillion naira in today's values. So which means, fast forward to another couple of years, that number should go up because we need to spend more in infrastructure, human capital development, and investing in tomorrow. We're barely struggling to pay salaries now and borrowing to do almost everything else. That's not sustainable. So this holds a lot of promise for the country, and we need to all work together to implement.
Quickly, how do you define the poor in Nigeria?
That was an interesting.
If there's a protection.
Yeah, that was an interesting debate we had. By the way, my committee is made up of more than 100 Nigerians who are all very committed. This is one of the excitements that I have gained in the past 2 years on this job. I've always been in Nigeria, but I didn't realize that Nigerians love their country so well. But the point is, we debated this question you asked. We said, who is a poor person in Nigeria? First, we started with data like, you know, the World Bank and the UN will tell you $2.15 a day per person means you are at the poverty line. And we said to ourselves, actually, in Nigeria, there are people who do not earn $2 a day, but they are not poor because they produce the food that they eat. They don't have to pay for transport. They just trek to the farm. I lived and grew up in the village. So we had to factor all of that in. We came up and we drew our own line for Nigeria on the basis of average of 5 people per family, 2 people working, if they're lucky, taking care of the 5. When we did the math, it gave us an amount, and that's actually exactly what we use in determining the income below which nobody should pay any taxes.
What figure did they give you?
So we came up with, I think it was 120 or 30,000 per
household?
Month. No, per 2 people working in a household of 5.
So if the earnings is about
250,000, they can take care of themselves. Of course, they're not going to have luxury, but at least they can.
But they're still classified as poor.
They are poor, and they shouldn't pay taxes.
But there are millions of those who are not even making 50,000 naira in a month.
Yes, but it means they won't pay taxes. You know, this tax law will not give you cash in your pocket, right? But at least it won't take your cash away if you're poor. So for us, that was the starting point of draw that line of poverty. And from that point downwards, nobody earning those amounts of income should have to pay tax because they don't even have enough.
But the fear is that the middle class and the medium earners are going to be burdened. That's the fear.
No, we've also reduced. So that's one good thing we've done. So even though I don't like to divide society, but the purpose of this, we have the low-income people at the bottom, we have people at the middle, we have people at the top. We have eliminated the tax completely for people at the bottom. We have reduced for people in the middle, and we have increased slightly for people at the top. That's what we've done. So if I want to give you numbers, that middle, we estimated it in the region of about 1.82 million naira a month. If you're earning those kind of amounts and below, your tax will not be zero, but it will reduce from what you are paying today. And that's fair enough. Of course, people will argue that 2 million is not a lot of money. But in our context, it's a lot of money because people who earn 2 million per month and above in Nigeria are less than 5% of all workers.
I asked you 5 questions, and this is where I want us to anchor. It was a political and ethnic division and controversy that rose up. And I asked you, you remember those 5 questions I asked you at the town hall?
Yes.
The political questions, the religious questions, the ethnic questions about the impact of this law. Are those settled now?
I would say substantially yes, because for the key stakeholders, they now fully understand. And the reason why I'm not going to say is 100%, I know that there's still people, ordinary people, who still don't believe what we are doing. They still hold on to those conspiracies, theories, misinformation. There was a guy who just, cooked up that Tinubu would take 1 basket of produce out of every 4 that they produce from farmers. Like, how do we... They say, where did they find this in the law?
But they believe that some northern states are going to be more impacted than southern states.
It's not supported by anything in the reforms. Actually, it's the other way around. The state that would have a reduction in their VAT revenue is Lagos State, which was why we started by discussing with Lagos State. We thought that was the difficult conversation to have because others will benefit, but it was misunderstood. We thought it was our responsibility to explain. We did, and I think now substantially our stakeholders do understand.
Before I allow you go, Mr. Oyedele, what is that significant lesson that you learned in all of this period?
What I've learned, number one, is when I started this job, I thought that it was about thinking smartly, coming up with brilliant ideas was going to be the job. I quickly realized that was going to be 10% of my work.
This is not Harvard.
And it's not Harvard, my brother. 90% of
Street Harvard.
90% of my work turned out to be stakeholder management. And in that process, the other lesson is just because I mean well for you, I should not assume that you will support me. It's my duty to explain to you. And one other thing that I've been able to do based on feedback that people give me is not getting angry because there's no point really.
Would you take this again if you have been offered?
Yes, I'll do it again.
You love Nigeria more?
I love Nigeria.
You are coming of age. You are 50 now.
Yeah. So even if anything happens to me today, they will write a story about me that there was a guy who tried to help his country. I'm very glad for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you, Taiwo, for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Congratulations again.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll take a break, everyone. But when we return, Governor of Nasarawa State will be joining me. The situation between the Nasarawa and Benue border bothers the mind. A guest on this program yesterday said we need to question what happens in Nasarawa. But President Tinubu was in Nasarawa yesterday. A lot of questions to ask Engineer Abdullahi Sule. And that'll be next on the program, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. President Bola Tinubu was in Lafia yesterday in Nasarawa State, where a commission project done by the Abdullahi Sule administration, Governor Abdullahi Sule, named the newly completed Lafia flyover and the underpass after President Bola Tinubu. The governor says the project was inspired by President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, adding that the project was completed due to prudent resource management. Well, earlier, while inaugurating the project, President Tinubu appreciated Governor Sule for focusing on initiatives that directly improve the lives of the people. Well, let's speak with Governor Abdullahi Sule, who is live for us in our Abuja studio here. Thanks so much, and congratulations on that event yesterday.
Thank you very much, Sean.
I'm not sure that I've seen the president speak so glowingly and so of any governor. He speaks about some of his ministers who are doing well. But as a governor of a state, I thought the president was rather very impressed. What did you tell him?
I told him, thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate you, also appreciating the little we did as a result of what you did. And that's why I love the statement where he said that A.A. Sule is doing well, Tinubu is, because Tinubu is also doing well. So, and I think that was the biggest statement actually for the whole event. And if not for what he did or what he has been doing for us, we would not have been able to do what made him happy. So we appreciated him, which was the main reason why we invited him anyway. We invited him so that he could come and see clearly the effort that he has put forward, the work that he has done, the release of the resources that he has done to some of the regions, especially Nasarawa, gave us the opportunity, to be able to perform to the level that we did. And the only way that he could appreciate it more was if he's able to see it himself, rather than just somebody telling him stories about it.
How significant is the flyover? The question is, why do people need that kind of flyover? Is the traffic that necessary that will have prompted a flyover? Now you are now tagged it as the Bola Tinubu flyover.
Well, we didn't just invite him to do the flyover. If you, maybe, I don't know if you listened to the time that he was commissioning the flyover. I say you are commissioning a flyover today, Mr. President, but that's not even the reason why we invited you. We invited you mainly, one, to appreciate you for what we did at the flyover, but we are inviting you more because of our secretariat. I came to a state where there was no secretariat. We invited him also.
For state government workers?
For state government workers.
Where where were they working from?
Nasarawa is a new state. It's one of the newest 6 states that the late General Abacha actually created in 1996. Exactly. So what happened was that when it was created as a new state coming out of Plateau, it came to Lafia, and Lafia also not being a very huge city. So some places actually they use other people's houses, as they start up ministries. There was no government house, until it also started and the rest of that. So we had lots of startup, and some of those people that started in some of those places is only to renovate the same houses or so. And I will tell you a joke actually. When I became the governor, I asked one of the commissioners, by the way, I don't know where your ministry is. And I'm not joking about it. He said, okay, sir, if you go there, you see the mechanic village? I say, yes. Make a right at that mechanic village, and that's where you will see by the left, that's the ministry. And I'm serious about that. And that's the kind of thing I inherited. But with all sense of humility, I'm well exposed. I have worked in the US and so many other places, and I've seen a lot of cities also here in Nigeria, and I've seen state capital. So I thought the best I could do will be to create something similar to that. When I actually came, even the federal secretariat was not there. So thanks to Governor Fashola, when he was the minister, we worked very hard until he was able to complete that. So now we have the state secretariat and we have the federal secretariat all in town.
So your plan is to ensure that Lafia looks like a state capital that it should be?
Lafia is a state capital now.
No, I mean, I'm talking about no, literally, it is a state capital as captured by law. No. But the fact remains that in terms of the physical infrastructure and what it should be.
That's correct. Yeah. No, I know that. I was pulling your leg. That's exactly right. So, and I think I made that statement a couple of times that Lafia should look more like, instead of looking like a glorified local government headquarters, it should stay like a state capital. Yes, I made that comment.
What more do you think will make Lafia look like to make it look like Ikeja, for example?
Well, I don't know about Ikeja, and there is no comparison actually with Ikeja. There are so many
things. Ikeja is because I'm going to drag you. I saw an opinion piece. I read it on the cable earlier today.
Okay.
Where the former IG, I didn't even know he's from Nasarawa State. Muhammad Adamu, the former IG, was writing about industrialization in Nasarawa State and how Nasarawa State is fast becoming the next China, in quote, meaning that there is industrialization coming. And there are a lot of things that he said that I don't even know about. And I'm imagining that if a former IG Adamu, for example, is identifying some of these issues about Nasarawa and fast becoming a place where any investor should look towards. And the president mentioned that, yes, you have the natural resources. Chinese companies are coming for lithium. You saw what Mr. Alake said about Nasarawa State. That's what I'm asking. Look, Ikeja is the capital of Lagos. So, interestingly, if you want last year to become the kind of state capital you want it to be? What more do you think?
Well, one, we need more hotels. Right now, we're building one under a PPP arrangement. Two, we
like
need
a 5-star kind of thing?
Yeah, 5-star kind of thing.
Or you even start from a 3?
And we are doing it, no, 5-star actually. Okay. And we are going into a relationship with Marriott, for that. So Nasarawa State provided all the infrastructure, a developer came, he's building it, and then Marriott is taking it for franchise. So we are going into that because we have a lot of these investors from China, from Germany, and now even from Angola. As I'm talking to you now, we have people from Nasarawa State that are traveling, on the invitation of the Angolan government, because one of the biggest investors in Angola has built the biggest fertilizer plant, in Tanzania, and they are going to commission it on Saturday. So they wanted Nasarawa to be there because his next project is actually a fertilizer plant in Nasarawa State. So it is not just the Chinese. The Chinese have so much interest in developing minerals, and that's why the Honorable Minister, like he mentioned, that so far over $800 million, has gone into interest in Nasarawa State, and he just obtained, for rare metals, another 400 million that is going into Nasarawa. So that's already 1.2 billion. So all that is the industrialization. But by the time all these come up, you are going to be looking at more jobs for the people, more participation for the people, bigger middle class in Nasarawa State, more educated people, and then the place they can go for recreation, and then they can pay their taxes, and then they can pay that. Then we're going to be talking about Ikeja. But right now, I think we are good enough, to be one of the best, at least among the 6 states that were created. And then we can go and start competing with some of the states that were there.
The president advised, he said, don't look away from agriculture.
Correct.
Because again, this is the third time the president said he wants to make agriculture sexy again.
Correct.
Are you thinking of making agriculture sexy in Nasarawa?
It's because of the video he saw.
I saw the rice.
Yes.
A year ago.
Yes.
You started planting rice.
Yes, we are
planting. Now you have harvested.
Right now we have harvested that, and right now we are planting for the next season.
Is there a rice mill in Nasarawa?
There is one owned by Olam. The biggest rice mill owned by Olam is in Nasarawa State. So 90% of the rice we harvested were actually milled at the
Olam's farm.
Yes. So, there is no need reinventing the wheel. I didn't want Nasarawa to go and start investing into a mill, which is the easier part. The more difficult part is actually to go to farm the rice. If we farm the rice, we have our paddy. We have so many buyers that are going to buy, and that's what we did. So we sold 90% to them, and then we gave part of the seedlings to every local government. And so far, I'm happy with what I'm seeing in every local government that is doing. We are replanting part of that seedlings into our expanded farm. We are going from 2,000 now, we are going to 3,000, this year. I believe in taking it one step at a time, not to go bam, one where you are not going to.
I know mathematics was one of your majors. So let's do the math. If you say that you are industrializing, and we're saying it, with the lithium, with the other resources, with the farming and all of that, what is the progression? How have you grown the economy in terms of numbers? What is the internally generated revenue saying? What is the GDP saying? What is the unemployment rate saying? How have you reduced or increased all of these figures? Okay. Can you prove that you have really done the work?
No, of course we have.
Because these figures will tell us.
Yes, of course we have done the work. Let me start with the IGR. When we came in 2019, the 2019 was the highest since the creation of the state, because we came in for 7 months and 5 months were already gone by the previous administration. And so at the end of the year, we had 7-point-something billion. That's all.
For IGR?
For IGR. By last year now, 2024, we have about 30 billion, for IGR. So we actually wanted to grow roughly about 5 times, to go 35 billion. But we only had roughly about 30 billion. And we are growing this year, especially with the new factories that are coming in mining and the rest and that. Now, unemployment, that's the more interesting one that you always mention. While we continue to create more employment opportunities, while we continue to give skill acquisition and create entrepreneurs so that they can become employers themselves, while we continue to reduce that, what is happening is that because Nasarawa is now more like you are Ogun to Lagos. A lot of people who are looking at Abuja for attraction come to live in Nasarawa. So sometimes some of them come with their own families. That's why Karu local government that has the border is the fastest growing local government in entire Nigeria. Okay, so we have not been able to see significant improvement on our unemployment when we check 2024 with all this effort we have done, because more people who are unemployed, who are looking for employment, move into our state. So I think that's part of
So you have more satellite towns.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have more people moving in, and the moment we grow, they dwarf our growth because we go to check.
Because most of the workers in Abuja, most of the domestic and low income earning workers in Abuja, they live in parts of Nasarawa State because they cannot afford housing.
That's correct.
But are you cashing in on that? Because Ogun State did under Amosun. Amosun went on a campaign to say, you live in Ogun State and work in Lagos, you pay tax in Ogun State. You need to be able to take advantage of that. Are you doing that?
Well, we are. It's part of the reason for our growth of this we follow up with the FCT, and I want to thank the FCT also for that. We follow up with them through our consultants also, and from time to time, we are able to get it back, from the FCT. And that has helped, significantly. So what we were getting in payee, for instance, has actually gone 3 times, So in fact, the fastest area of the growth of our IGR is in the payee, and that is the reason why we have been able to get part of our payee through that. So, but sometimes it's very difficult to catch them on that. You have mentioned about our GDP. Our GDP actually doubled, but that one is very difficult to give credit to us because it's the country. Based on the economy of the country, based on the GDP of Nigeria as it's growing, it's actually spread. And Nasarawa, with due respect, among some of the northern states, is becoming more an elite state, especially because of Abuja. So that's the reason why you are beginning to see some of those numbers.
However, there is a concern. I had a guest yesterday that says there are a lot of criminals who are being harbored in your state. And most of those who were said to have committed a havoc on Yawata in Benue State, where they came from Nasarawa, or they stayed in Nasarawa. After the attack, they went back to Nasarawa before. Are you worried about this? Were you aware? Because we understand that there was a security report that this attack was going to happen. And this is not the first time. Even in past administration in Benue State, Nasarawa has always been, allegedly, the harboring, the haven for these attackers.
You see, the problem comes with the terminology of harboring, haven, and things like that, because there is nothing like that. Unfortunately, in 2019, that's what I inherited. I inherited a situation where my predecessor and Governor Otom were not in good talking terms because of some of these accusations. And I went to Governor Otom and said, Governor Otom, what is really happening between you and my predecessor? He said, no, it's because of this. And I said, okay, come, sir. I'm willing to sit down with you to find the solutions. And what you said yesterday about your guest of yesterday is the most unfortunate thing, because some of these people are leaders. Leaders are supposed to be careful. Let me go, starting with the security report you have mentioned. You know who sent the report to me? The governor of Benue himself. He sent to me that, and that is exactly what the report said, that they realized there were some people wanting to attack Benue, and they are coming from Plateau, coming from Taraba, and they were going to gather in Nasarawa. It's just like saying somebody going to Lagos, and then you say, he went through Ogun. Where else will he go through? It has to be the Ogun. Okay? So I said, sir, let me get back to that. And I sent this report immediately to all our security agencies. Our military, we have the special forces, our air force,
so
our
you escalated it immediately?
Immediately to all those people.
This was before the Yawata attack?
Before the Yawata attack. To be fair to the governor, he sent it to me.
So we were forewarned.
And I asked him, I say, who sent it to you? He said, his intelligence people. I say, so what are you doing about it? Because, when you receive this kind of, what are you doing about it? He said this, I now called some of the people, without calling names, some of the big people here in Abuja. I said, this is what the report we received. This is what we are saying. This is that. He received the report, and we received it. Now, later on, with due respect to the governor again, he mentioned in one of his interviews that some of these people who were coming actually came from Cameroon. Coming from Cameroon, they will not come to Nasarawa, they will go through Taraba. You know, so now I saw a video after the attack. These people that we saw in the video, if indeed were the people who did the attack, you know, they didn't even speak any Fulfulde or any Fulanese that we see here. These are people that are from definitely from different countries, you know, that we saw. And they don't have cows, they don't have this. And after the attack, the unfortunate thing that always happens is that there is going to be bombing of some of the Fulani settlements at the border. You know, so because, and when I speak with security agencies, they will say, oh, they are doing that because they believe those are the places that are harboring the criminals. But these people go to some of those places and even kill the Fulanis in that places and take their cows. You know, so I think rather than blaming certain people, we should sit down. I have had 4 different versions now of that. I even had a version where, with due respect, one of the traditional rulers there said that is the misunderstanding taking place between some of the sons of Benue that is making some of the sons of Benue sponsored some of these attacks so that the president could declare state of emergency. I had that distance said by some of them at the major events. In fact, the president was there when it was said. So how does Nasarawa come into that?
You can for sure say Nasarawa citizens are not culpable in all of this.
We don't. You see, in Nasarawa, we don't even have enough Fulanis that we can say that. We don't even. Nasarawa is not known. That's why anything that has to do with dairy, with cattle, with this, we don't do that because Nasarawa has enough problems of itself. So why will Nasarawa be interested in harboring anybody? We have enough trouble to manage. Just 2 days ago, I had to go to Profos, you know, a company actually that is doing a lot of very good work in Ogun State, you know, concerning that. And part of what we distributed yesterday, you know, were security vehicles, armored vehicles, electric vehicles, this and that, all for security. And all mainly because of the border, because in Nasarawa, we don't want any insecurity problem. We have a lot of investors all over the places. So we don't want anything that this. So why will Nasarawa be interested?
I mean, so
you know, in harboring anyone.
There's one thing. You could have 4 blocks of a flat.
Yeah.
You live in one and you rent 3 out.
Yes.
And you may not be so privy to the activities of your tenants.
No.
Could it be that you have people
we don't.
who are using Nasarawa as a cover?
No.
For evil?
They definitely not. You see, these people who carry out these attacks, they are not the kind of people who rent 3 houses or 1 house. These are people who come on motorcycles. And in most cases, some of these military, you know, intelligence also, they see them. They send the message. Okay, who is now attacking Plateau? Who attacks Zamfara? Who attacks Borno? Who attacks Katsina? Who attacks Sokoto? Is it Nasarawa? Is it because they are living in Nasarawa or they are living? You know, so I think this is where leadership is lacking. The moment you have a problem, leaders should come together. And I keep saying this to everybody because that's what we do in Nasarawa. The moment there is a problem, I don't care whether you come to our party or not, whether you belong to APC or NABGA or whatever party. Come, let us solve the problem together. That's what we need to do also in Benue.
And look, one thing in all of this is also the fact that the president, when he was in Lafayette yesterday, he said something. He said, those who are in the coalition and in the opposition, they are IDPs. But you're a very smart politician, although you are not an original politician.
No, I'm not.
But now you are in politics.
But I'm not original.
But these IDPs that you're talking about, there are those who know now who say, look, APC will be shocked. They won't know what it's them in 2027.
In which state?
No, at the national, you're a national leader of the party.
Okay. You see, if you are making those kind of categorical statements, you have to make a reference.
I'm referencing.
Yeah.
I'm referencing. I mean, you were hit. You lost 2 senatorial districts.
No. We lost 3.
Yeah. So
we lost 3.
And you didn't know that was going to hit you.
No. We
never saw that.
No. We knew it was going to hit us. It's the same people in APC that were angered by some of the people within APC that got upset, came to me and say, sir, We are the right candidates, we are the best candidates, but some people are trying to frustrate us, so we are going to... Do you know what happened? Both of them went to another party, the SDP. Throughout their campaigns, they campaigned for themselves, and they campaigned for Asuaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu and A.A. Sule. None of them campaigned for any SDP outside their own positions. So our own was an internal problem, which by the grace of God has been neutralized now.
You have an internal problem also in the APC at the national level.
Which level?
At the national level.
Where?
You saw what happened in Gombe, where they almost break some of your leaders' head.
No.
Now the question is that this coalition that the president is dismissing,
yes,
are you worried?
You want him to encourage the coalition?
It's good for opposition.
No, it's not good for opposition. A good party, you know, you want to be as dominant as possible, and that's what every party wants to do. So he will be the last to encourage any coalition. And that's exactly, so he's doing the right thing. He's doing what the original politician should do. And that's what he's doing. You know, so I don't think it is a problem of that. And if you look at it, you know, that's why when they said somebody should be scared of the opposition. Did you see the way this man was received yesterday in Lafia? These people were not mobilized by the government. These people mobilized themselves because they are beginning to see what is really going on and what is returning to them. It's not government that mobilized them.
All right.
You know.
Governor Abdullah, it's always a pleasure having you on the program. I wish we have more time. But thank you so much indeed.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations on some of these projects.
No,
but you need to do more.
No, we are
you have less than 2 years to go.
No, well, okay, it's less, right?
It's less.
Okay,
it's less.
All right. I thought it's about 2 years. So
I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Akimale. God bless Nigeria.